Shiloh.
Hi, Rachel. How you doing?
Good.
Good. So, to tell you a little bit about me, I work with EverydayFamily.com. We are a pregnancy and parenting website with over 4 million members.
Great.
And I'm hoping that today I can share some of your knowledge about children and food allergies with our members.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it seems that to me that food allergies are everywhere these days. My daughter's 2 years old in daycare, and at the start of the school year, we got a note home from her teacher telling us not to bring peanuts because they're a peanut-free classroom because there's a child there that's allergic. That was the first time I've ever encountered that because she's young, of course, but I've heard that it's not just peanuts anymore. It's all sorts of stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about the growing prevalence of food allergies in general in children and what might be causing them?
Sure. You know, Shiloh, we really don't know what's causing this uptick in food allergies, but what we think is going on is that just parents and people in general are just more aware of food allergies. And we're putting two and two together in terms of symptoms and how it relates to food. So I just
they might have been just as bad before. We just didn't really notice.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. I just think that the awareness is just more prevalent these days.
Gotcha. That's interesting. Now, what, besides peanuts, because everybody knows about peanuts, that seems to be the big one, what else? I've heard a lot of, the word gluten thrown around. What exactly is gluten? How can you explain that to our members, so that they have an idea of what they're talking about there?
Actually, gluten is a protein that's found in wheat, barley, and rye, and it's not something that you can cook out or remove. So if you have a gluten allergy, the only way to live gluten-free is to have alternative gluten-free grains. So that's really the issue. And, back to your comment about it being like you noticed how it was more prevalent, it's interesting. The PTA and UDIs commissioned a study which showed that 76% of parents said food allergies are common in their classrooms, their kids' classrooms. So it's endemic all over. And I think as a parent, we need to be prepared when we go into our children's classrooms or we're hosting a birthday party or we are, bringing snacks after school or to a sporting event, we need to be prepared for food allergies, and we want to make sure we have good resources to go to for good recipes, and we want to provide snacks that are safe for kids and actually taste good.
Yes, definitely. So tell us about some of those. I'm curious. I mean, I don't know about any of that.
Well, I'm here today to show you some great fun snacks that are easy to prepare and are safe for all kids to enjoy. The first one I have here is a cookies and cream whoopie pie that my kids gobbled up this weekend. They're so good. And this is perfect for a birthday party. It's just fun and it tastes great and it's gluten-free. I also have here a chocolate dip granola bar that it's super easy to make and it's easy to take on the go, and I have a fun party mix. So again, this is good for all kids. They're not going to know that it's gluten-free, and it includes everyone. And these recipes are available actually on udisglutenfree.com/back-to-school.
Awesome. Now, what about, it's hard enough for moms to come up with healthy, creative lunches that our kids will actually eat.
Correct.
When you have access to any food item. But what about when you're limited? What sorts of tips can you tell moms to help with their, packing their school lunch when they have a child that's allergic?
Well, interesting enough, in today's market, there is so many great allergy-free alternatives, especially gluten-free alternatives. So when you're thinking about lunch, what I like to tell parents is to see if you can focus on including at least 3 food groups. I have a good example of this here today. This is a gluten-free bread, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that you put some kind of protein on the bread or like a nut butter, and then you want to accessorize it or complement it with naturally allergy-free foods, such of course your fruits and your vegetables naturally allergy-free. Here's some carrot sticks with a fun hummus dip because kids love to dip things. Nice. So that's where I would focus on. Try to include at least 3 food groups in your lunch.
Okay. And when we're talking about these allergies, I mean, again, peanuts got such a big rap because it's so serious.
It is. It's very
serious. With gluten given some of these other allergies that are food allergies that are coming up, are the reactions the same? What should we look for as parents? Is it serious? Do we need to call the emergency 911 immediately, or?
That's a great question, Shiloh. In fact, in terms of a gluten allergy, which you can be tested for, actually, if you ingest gluten, it could damage your intestines. And in terms of children, it can actually affect their growth rate, and it can cause lethargy. Sometimes they'll have rashes over their skin. So if your child is diagnosed with a gluten allergy, the only cure for that is to remain gluten-free.
Oh, man. Well, I have seen a lot more gluten-free, items on restaurant menus around.
Absolutely.
It does seem to be that people are becoming more aware and, modifying their menus, to accommodate more people.
Absolutely. And Shiloh, actually over 3 million people suffer from a gluten allergy, and over 40 million people have some type of gluten intolerance. So it is prevalent, and the best advice for parents is to be prepared. Make sure you have resources for meal planning and some great recipes.
Definitely. Now, one more question, just because, like I said, my daughter's 2, and at this point we haven't found any food allergies, but we haven't taken her to get tested. Is there an age when, you can say, oh, I'm safe, she doesn't have it by now, she's not going to have it, or do you need to always be on the lookout for this stuff?
Well, I think, especially since you have a 2-year-old and you're continually introducing new foods, and it's important that you introduce new foods. And when you introduce these new foods, you want to make sure, especially in the case of the most common allergens, that you want to introduce those singularly, not in a mixed diet, like you would give them peanut butter just by itself to see. And usually if a child does have an allergy, you would know pretty quickly because the symptoms don't dissipate, they sort of linger. So if they're having breakouts around their mouth, or they're having stomach aches and they're not feeling well, that's a good indication. But, if you don't see those side effects, there's really no reason to run out and get your child tested.
Good. I don't need to prick her in the back.
No.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. And can you repeat that URL one more time for our members?
Sure. It's udiesglutenfree.com/back-to-school.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and I know our members are going to love hearing about this, and especially for the recipes for these fun snacks.
Great. Thanks, Shiloh.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.